was my dad's brother-in-law. And that's how come we got to buy that Model A Ford Coupe. And it was a really good one, and I had it till I got too big for it.
You get too big for it?
Well, yeah. Then my father bought me a new 41 Chevrolet
Ooh.
Coach.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you were really
And,
up in it.
well, I was king of the woods.
What color? What color was it?
Oh,
What color was it?
and if Gladys was here, well, she could tell you
Usually
about
they
that.
were black or dark
I would-
blue or green,
Yeah,
dark
let me
green.
ask you, what color was your Model A car? What color was it?
Black. There was only you should never ask that question.
I was-
That's all what there was.
I was wondering when the colors started coming in. You know.
Oh, here and there, somebody, maybe, I think they had an order special.
After the war, Henry
Yeah.
Ford said there was only one color on the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Black.
I think
Black.
everybody had either dark green, black, or dark navy-like. That was the only three colors I think you can
Yeah.
choose. You were thankful to have a car. You didn't care what the color was.
With some of these old movies you see that they first put color movies out, some of these cars, old cars back in the 30s, would all different color cars. I guess back in the 40s, and
Yeah.
that's when the color started coming out.
Probably
Very
more
yellow
so.
and black was
Yeah, yellow, yeah. Anybody else remember their first car?
I never had a car till we got married. I just used my folks.
Yeah.
The family car. I really never had a car that I could say was mine.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. I'll never forget when I was learning to drive. My dad said, "I'll teach you." And so, well, it was only one time. We go in the car, and well, I didn't know much about it. He said, "Well, you've been riding in this car for such a long time, you don't know where half the stuff is." I said, "Well, no, I wasn't paying any attention to that." I said, "I'm not driving with you." So we went home. I said, "I'm not going out with Dad anymore. He's no good." My Aunt Irene said, "I'll take you out." She said, "I'll teach you to drive." And then one day, my mom wanted to go to the cemetery, and we went, but she drove. And then when we were out there, she said, "Oh, I want to go across the cemetery to some other relatives." She said, "You drive the car around, the cemetery and pick me up on the other side." And she was telling my dad that night. He said, "My Lord, you let her drive in the cemetery? She could have knocked all those tombstones over." I remember that to this
Oh,
day.
that,
It was so funny. I said, I can drive better than that.
The first car we had, we didn't have much money, and it was after Roland was working his apprenticeship right after the war. And so we lived in Edwardsville too at that time. And he worked for the Schneider Funeral Home, and across the street was a little filling station. Anyway, he bought this little car from his brother. It was a coupe, and he bought it for $500, and it was white. And so we used it for a while, and then he decided we could afford another car. So his folks were getting a car, and we could buy that one. So he said, "I gotta sell that car." He paid $500 for it. So he went to the store and got a thing of paint at that time they called powder puff paint. And it came with a kit. You bought it, and then you bought a powder puff came with it. He went and painted that black. The whole car, it was white, and he painted that car black. So he took it across the street. You remember that little filling station
Yeah.
from Schneider? And put it there. And this was when cars were scarce.
yeah.
So one day, a car, well, I guess it was a truck, came with a trailer behind it and pulled into that and asked who owned that car. So they said, "Oh, the guy across the street in the funeral home." So he came over there, and Roland went over with him, and he said, "I'd like to buy that car." And Roland said, "Well, okay, it's $500. "Well, I don't want to pay that much." He said, "I'll give you $300. Roland said, "No." So he drove off. In a little, Roland went back. When he came back, this guy came back to there. And he came and got Roland and said, I'll pay you $500 for that. So we had it for maybe a year, and he got his money back out of it. So he rode off with it. And when he got down the street, he had a flat tire. So that's the story of our first car.
That is,
Lord.
you don't forget things like that too.
Oh.
But I always heard that there were a lot of flat tires back in those days. You know, the tires didn't last nearly as long back in those days.
Well, it was just after the war when cars were scarce.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, heck, you had a long time, you had to have your name on a list before you could get a car. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
You only got so
Right.
many. And my Lord, I think, what would you pay? Only maybe about
That was
$1,000 or something for a new one.
That was
I think
that was
that-
Knetzer.
Yeah, it was.
It was a fraud. He went to jail for it.
Did he?
I think in our family, I think my dad had a dark blue, and my aunt had a green, and I think they both were they Plymouths or something, Plymouth or Dodge, I think, and I think Chevrolet had, I think, a car, and maybe Ford. You didn't have much to select from, but you were just happy to have a car.
Right, I remember that.
Oh, that was the thing at that time, if you had a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, your first car was usually handed down from your parents.
Yeah,
or
we
your
went
older
down-
sister or brother.
Yeah.
You know, so that's,
I'll never forget. We lived in Wisconsin. We didn't have a car, and I had to. Ray worked at the hospital in the morning and then the clinic in the afternoon uptown. So at 3 o'clock, I'd go get the groceries, and then the clinic was just about a block away, and he'd come when he got off. And so we each had all these groceries in bags, and we lived about maybe a mile from the grocery area, you know, the town. And I swear, I guess we never learned. We'd get about a block or two from our house, and the bag would break. Well, I'd sit there because the cans were rolling down the sidewalk. He'd run home, get some more bags, and come back, get the groceries, and we'd go home. My daughter said, why didn't somebody take a cab? I said, we didn't waste money on a cab, I said. She
Oh,
said,
my-
well, you'd one take a cab, the other one walk. One take the groceries.
yes,
We never had cabs here.
No, they didn't have
right. Yeah, I remember talking to a gentleman